Hi, I'm Ken Howard, and welcome to the Gay Therapy LA podcast. Today, I want to talk about gay men and pets, challenges and rewards. In an earlier episode, I talked about how gay men can seek to satisfy their natural paternal instincts, even if they don't have children. And I talked about how gay men can sometimes see their pets as their children, doting on them probably more than straight people do overall. Although, the love for a pet can be profound. And expounding on this, let's discuss more about gay men and pets. There are a number of challenges and certainly a number of rewards that we can consider. And perhaps this today will serve to validate many of your feelings, challenge some of your thinking, and provide support for the special relationship that is not only man's best friend, but gay man's best friend, whether that's the traditional dog or a cat or some other kind of companion animal. Let's talk about the rewards. So the rewards of pet ownership, or the more recommended term these days, pet guardianship, are many. When I was single for many years in Los Angeles, I lived alone, but I had a cat, and just having him to come home to was a nice part of the day. It wasn't the same as having a partner, but I still think it went a long way when I was younger for teaching me about just having someone else in mind that gave me a healthy sense of responsibility day in and day out, especially over the long term. So later, this kind of awareness and regard for another became part of a relationship with my partner. And while it might be a stretch to say that having a pet was a good preparation for having a partner, I realize how that sounds. I actually think there's some relevance there. I think there might be more overlap than it's comfortable to really say. Both involve a certain amount of training, right? I'm just kidding on that. But I do think that there is some analogous responsibility there between a pet waiting for you at home and having to get out of yourself and just kind of think about how you need to be responsible sometimes, and a partner at home through certain agreements and rules or just ways of living that you and your partner negotiate and navigate. So having a pet can help, especially a younger gay man, also to satisfy a certain paternal instinct, which is to take care of something and accept taking responsibility for its well-being, growth, development, comfort, and even discipline. Today, with many gay male couples or even single gay men having children through public foster programs, adoption, surrogacy, all kinds of arrangements, there are definitely gay fathers. But for so many busy gay men with big jobs and big social lives, and for other reasons, actual children aren't right for them in their lives. So one pet or more can address that paternal instinct inside of all of us, just like mothers have. Lesbians might have a maternal instinct to have children, but they may not be attracted to men to create the babies. The instinct to be a parent and the instinct to create children heterosexually may be independent variables, because we all seem to have at least some instinct for wanting to take care of something and to give it our love and receive a certain love in return, creating this feedback loop of love that can be very rewarding. The unconditional love that we receive from a dog or a cat or another kind of pet can be a component of our individual self-care. With our busy work lives and so many stressors in recent times, the COVID pandemic, economic volatility, political divides, climate change, LGBT rights worldwide and seeming constant debate, cultural changes, the unconditional love that pets offer to their human protectors can remind us of the purity of compassion that the big world sometimes forgets. Being with your pet, petting, playing, cuddling, walking, can be a very cheap, quick, and effective stress reducer throughout our day, especially if we work from home, as so many people do these days in the wake of the COVID pandemic. So the rewards of pets can include helping us to connect to nature, to remind us that although we have electronic gadgets and planes that circumvent the globe and Zoom and banking and rush, rush, go, go, we are still part of the same animal kingdom that they come from. We are connected to nature as a whole by having these domesticated representatives of the natural world in our homes. And this reminds us that existentially we're only a few chromosomes away from being in their position, and that all creatures of the world are somehow interconnected when our modern society likes to pressure us into forgetting that and emphasizing, sometimes very bitterly, our differences between people and certainly between human and animal. Pets can appeal to our better natures. Who can be angry when a dog is licking our hand? Who can be stressed out when we're throwing a ball for him or her to fetch or dangling a string of yarn in front of a cat to attack? However tough gay men have to be in our society to stave off homophobia, discrimination, work competition, there's an episode about that I'm currently outlining, other home and family pressures, financial chores, we can finally relax in the company of our pet, however briefly, kind of intermittently throughout the day. The care and feeding and grooming and vet visits and supply shopping and pee and poop management, other things we do for our pets, helps us to know a healthy discipline that gets us out of our own heads and thinking of another, which is a good insurance policy against too much self-focus or too much self-involvement. And it cultivates empathy for another, which is also, a good relationship tool with having a partner. Pets can even be a source of prestige. This is, of course, controversial, but gay men in general tend to have the stereotypical good taste that, straight women always seem to fetishize about us. Rescue organizations and local animal shelters will always recommend adoption from them or from an online organization like petfinder.com in the US, or certain dog or cat breeds will have their own specialty rescue websites. But some gay men want designer dogs, of a specific breed, and, to each his own. And just like a trophy husband can be seen, can be nice to be seen out walking with, so can an unusually beautiful breed of pet or something exotic. Some single gay men claim that walking their dog can be a real dude magnet because it's an easy way to start a conversation with strangers out on the street. Although, where I live in West Hollywood, sometimes the hotter guys walk their dogs quickly away because they don't want the flirtation, but that's just West Hollywood. But having pets gives us one more conversational tool in social situations. Pets are an easy topic to break the ice with someone, and when I coach gay men on how to increase their social networking skills, whether for work or for their social lives or their dating lives or their sex lives, talking about pets can feel easy. Gay men like being asked about their beloved pets, kind of like grandparents like being asked about their grandchildren. Most people get more answer back than they anticipated. It's not really that we are using our beloved pets to make friends or get a job or even get laid, but the socialization factor can be another one of the rewards of pets. Pets can also help us to have a sense of identity within our lifespan by observing theirs, which are usually shorter than humans. My husband of 20 years now, here in 2022, and I have had 3 dogs and 2 cats at different staggered times with some overlap, with now our youngest dog is left. But our various pets have helped us to understand our relationship in a certain temporal context by way of our pets' lifetimes and the circumstances of how we obtain them, their youth and development, what we experienced during their lifetimes, and even their aging process and their deaths. And this helps us to cope with the developmental and existential aspects of life for all of us, eventually. So now let's look at some of the challenges and what we can do about them. Many animal welfare advocates and veterinarians and rescue organization workers will emphasize that pet ownership or guardianship is definitely not for everyone, and not every kind of pet is right for every kind of person. It takes time and money and sacrifice and commitment of both material and non-material resources, like love and attention. It takes a certain amount of education or awareness about the special needs of a certain kind of pet and the nature of that animal to understand its risks and benefits, and also whether or not we are suited for dealing with that particular kind of pet, particularly if we have the stuff to meet that kind of pet's challenges. Let's look at some of the challenges of having pets, and then we'll look at cognitive and behavioral coping strategies for each one of them. So number one is the selection process of the type of pet and the source of that pet. So first, deciding on what kind of pet you want is key. Do your research and your homework to consider the species, the breed, the weight, the size, the characteristics, and any special requirements that might vary in how you care for them. What's allowed for you to have as a resident of your apartment building or condo complex is also a key consideration. You don't want to run afoul of rules that might force you to give up your pet later. Your homeowner's insurance policy, if you have one of those, might prohibit exotic or dangerous pets such as a boa constrictor or animals that are not approved domesticated animals. Ferrets are one common example that are prohibited, or pit bull dogs. Plus there's just what you want. Do you want a lower maintenance cat? Do you want a docile breed of dog, or one that has a ton of energy to often play? How about issues about separation anxiety if you're at work all day? What kind of challenges might there be around housebreaking the pet? What kind of health problems might the breed be known for to have that you need to be prepared to pay for? Possibly extensive vet bills to mitigate that condition. So what are some coping strategies, the cognitive coping strategies for the selection process? Mostly just give your selection of pets some thought. Brainstorm why you want to have a pet and some possible risks and rewards of what that might look like, before you even start your search. Think about if you're ready to make a long-term, for the life of the animal, commitment to its well-being. This is not a temporary thing. You don't just pick up a pet and put it down or leave it when you're done with it. It's not like that. It's a much stronger commitment than that. Think about your current schedule and your lifestyle and how that might change. Do you have time to walk a dog at least several times a day? Or can you afford a pet sitter to do it while you're at work? Let's look at the behavioral coping strategies. We'll do this for each one, the cognitive coping strategies and the behavioral coping strategies. So the behavioral strategies for selecting a pet can be, take yourself through a series of questions beforehand. Don't be impulsive for a cute little face of a pet, or certainly not one that's trendy now. Get consultation from a friend who is an animal advocate of some kind, or even just speak briefly to your local veterinarian. Pet rescue organizations might, in some cases, tend to kind of gloss over any challenges to adopt out their surplus pets who need homes, but even they will want to make a good match. Discuss your decision to get a pet, if at all, and what kind, and how the caretaking duties will be shared with your partner or roommate. I worked with a client about this just recently, and his partner's unilateral decision to buy a prestigious dog breed caused friction on many levels in the relationship. Number two is the cost as a challenge. The cost association with pet adoption can be significant. Even rescue organizations might have an adoption fee that's in the hundreds of dollars, and a purebred breeder, of the pet kind, not the slang for heterosexuals, but might charge, thousands of dollars for one pet. The cost of spaying or neutering a new pet is key, as are initial and follow-up shots, annual shots sometimes, and other treatments like grooming or clipping claws humanely or cleaning their ears and teeth, which are all professional veterinary or pet grooming services. The cost of weekly food or some toys or bedding or some cages or containment, and possibly daily pet sitting if you're at work or on vacation, are all part of your annual budget that wasn't there before you adopted the pet. And in general, cats cost less to care for than dogs, and mutt dogs can be overall less maintenance than certain purebreds that have inbred challenges, mostly from inbreeding too much. So what are the cognitive coping strategies for the costs? I would sit down and make a list of potential costs and then compare that with your current income and your expenses and your overall lifestyle budget. Are you willing to make any necessary sacrifices to afford your pet's care? Could you meet those responsibilities without resenting your pet for costing more than you were expecting? How could you learn what costs to be prepared for? Maybe ask a vet or a rescue organization staff or an animal advocate of some kind. Are you willing to perhaps live with the frustration of a cat who might claw the furniture? And do not declaw them. That is universally known to be very cruel. You have to deal with it some other way. Or are you willing to live with a dog who pees in the wrong place before it's fully house trained? Let's look at the behavioral coping strategies too. Actively budget both money and time for your pet's care. Accept it as part of the cost of having their companionship and unconditional love. Most people find it worth it, but you have to make that decision from an informed perspective, either alone or in consultation with your partner or your roommates. Number 3 is housing. For the right pet, consider your housing now and what it will be like in the future. Smaller apartments or flats might be conducive to cats or small dogs or hamsters, some other kind of smaller pet, while larger dogs either need an outdoor walk or roam frequently or to have a big yard to live in. So the cognitive coping strategies for the housing would be to think about where you live now and where you might live in the future. Be aware of any housing rules where you live, including if your partner or roommates have allergies or even a phobia about certain kinds of pets that are triggering. Think about where your pet would sleep and where it would allowed to be or not allowed to be, such as, in your bed or on your couch. The behavioral coping strategies would include take a look at your condo homeowners association rules or maybe the text of your apartment rental lease. Make a plan for getting answered any questions that you don't know for sure the answers to. Consider the humane aspects of your pet's need for space, such as having a space like a cat tree for a cat to escape your dog if you already have one. Or are there any special fees that a landlord in an apartment building might demand as a security deposit for having a pet against damage? You'd have to be prepared, to pay for that and let him or her hold that for the life of the lease. Number 4 is allergies. Pet allergies are the bane of many people's health. Dating a new guy who has an allergy to dogs or cats can actually threaten the relationship. Allergies from roommates or friends visiting can be a consideration. This is a kind of fact of life and shouldn't always prevent you from having a pet, but it is something to be aware of. So what are the cognitive coping strategies? Think about the people you have frequent contact with and ask if you don't already know about what their allergies are. The behavioral coping strategies might be make a plan for how you might cope with your own or others' allergies. Sometimes a daily antihistamine medication might help, or another kind of medication. But this can be a challenging situation, especially for a boyfriend or partner or spouse situation. Number 5 is time for care. Gay men can be busy people. We have high demand, high reward professional jobs often that fund an active social life or travel life or domestic lifestyle. And with these big, often professional jobs, that can interfere with the time required to care for a pet. So the coping cognitive strategies might be, before taking in a pet, think about your current time schedule. When in your day would you walk or feed or play with a dog, which are all necessary functions for him or her? Who would take care of your pet if you have frequent business travel or frequent leisure travel? The behavioral coping strategies might be making a time budget, your schedule, and see where pet activities fit into your daily and weekly lifestyle. If you can't find time on paper, you might need to wait to take on a pet. Our last one, number 6, is about passing and loss. By far, the hardest part of enjoying that life of a pet is at its end. My husband and I have now had to endure witnessing the euthanasia of 2 dogs and 1 cat, one at home with a visiting vet and another 2 in vets' offices. And one was during the height of the pandemic when we were dressed in almost hazmat suits at the vet office. And another cat died of natural causes in his sleep at home. I don't think there have been sadder days for us in the life of our relationship. While some people find this kind of experience so emotionally trying that they avoid having a pet altogether just to not have to go through that, or getting another pet altogether, I still think it's worth it. My favorite movie is The Wizard of Oz. Typical gay man. A lot of gay men say that. And I always think of the Tin Man's line at the end of the movie when he's trying to say goodbye to Dorothy. And he says, "Now I know I have a heart, because it's breaking." And that's what we feel sometimes when our pet leaves us, as they tend to do because they have shorter lifespans than ours. So what are the coping strategies? I don't think there's any other better cognitive coping strategy for this loss other than saying to yourself, the only way out of this is through it. Let yourself grieve. It's only natural. You loved your pet, and when they are gone, it hurts very badly. But that's not only part of their life, but it's part of ours too. We all have many turns at experiencing grief, and they seem to accumulate over a lifetime. One of the challenges of getting older, I think, is that we start to accumulate the number of losses that we've had or the number of funerals that we've been to. And someday it will be others' turn to mourn us. Accepting the transition as part of life helps us to cope and to know that your love for your pet gave it, hopefully, a healthy and happy life because of your care. There are many aspects to managing grief, no matter what kind of loss, and we've had other episodes on there, and there's other blog articles on my website on gaytherapyla.com if you search on grief and loss. I think my favorite suggestion of how to deal with the loss of a pet, or really any form of grief and mourning, is just not avoid it. Just let it fucking hurt as bad as it has to for as long as it has to. And it will take a natural course of healing that the grief will subside, even if there's always a part of you that's going to miss your pet. My husband and I often have a Christmas tree. We're not particularly religious, but we do have a Christmas tree during December. And we reserve a little section up at the top of the tree where the angel goes for little ornaments that represent the pets that we've lost, because we think of our pets as being with the angels. It's awfully sentimental, but for us at the holidays, when it's about family and tradition and remembrances and ritual, that little ritual of remembering our pets kind of is heartwarming for us, because we remember what those pets meant to us in the history of our life together. I actually think adopting another pet reasonably shortly after the loss of another one can be comforting. There's no cultural mandate that says we have to dress in black with the little pillbox hat and the veil like a little Italian widow or something. But or the stereotype of that. My apologies to the Italian listeners here, but yes, you have to grieve, I think, the loss of a pet, but it's okay to get another one fairly soon, because we have to remember that for most kinds of pets, especially cats and dogs, there are so many, many more born than homes to house them in. And this results in a terrible social situation of many animals needing to be euthanized in shelters or facilities annually. This is why spaying or neutering a pet is so crucial. There are pets that need homes now every day in every municipality. So the sooner you can open your home and your heart to a new pet after losing one, the sooner you're saving the life and providing probably an especially good home for them. I think cats and dogs kind of hit the lottery when they get adopted by gay men, because, ooh boy, are they going to have it good. So in conclusion, pets can't completely substitute for live, in-person, human-to-human, interpersonal relationships, but they can be a great enhancement to life under the right circumstances. And for gay men, we often have special interpersonal relationships going on in our lives, because in addition to, or in some cases in place of, our family of origin, we also have our family of choice, who can be our gay male peers or other ally friends or neighbors or co-workers or others. But pets can be a part of that. And pets can be a part of what we clinical social workers like me call the emotional support system, which are the people and the things around us that create support for us emotionally for what's going on and make us feel connected to the world around us. The emotional support system is kind of this living organism that's comprised of supportive professionals on the one hand and supportive friends and lovers and partners that we need to cultivate and manage and incorporate into our lives at any age or any developmental stage of life. So on a personal note, I want to dedicate this episode to my cat Boris. Boris was our orange tabby cat who died of cancer just over a week ago after a long deterioration. He was 17 years old, and we adopted him from a cat rescue program at our local Petco, which is a pet supply store in West Hollywood. We took our dog then, a miniature dachshund, with us and showed her the kittens available for adoption. And when we picked Boris up from the pen of all these kittens, the dog didn't seem to flinch, and Boris just kind of sniffed at the dog, but he didn't hiss or get upset. So just then we knew he was the right cat for us. Later, Boris had a habit of walking up to the dog and grooming her face with his tongue in a sweet show of dog-cat affection that doesn't happen with all of them, sometimes. And while it was painful to have to bring Boris to our vet for the euthanasia procedure, we knew that it was the right thing to do at that time to avoid him being in pain or suffering from his mental and physical decline. But it's the good times we'll remember, such as his penchant for always sitting underneath the Christmas tree every year. And when the time is right, we'll get another cat. So in tribute, I played the cast album of Cats in his honor, because I'm a big show tunes queen. I've written a musical that I have had a lot of fun composing and writing and even recording. I'll give you more news about that when the concept album of my musical is available. Especially in its finale, up to the Heaviside layer, kind of the kitty heaven, and the respect involved in addressing a cat. If you look on YouTube for the addressing of cats, you'll see a really good segment that's been filmed of the stage version of Cats. And then I also found online the marginalian.org. Gosh, just look for T.S. Eliot reads The Addressing of Cats. And it's T.S. Eliot, the British poet, who wrote the book of poems that Cats is based on. And he actually reads the text of the addressing of cats. So who do you want to honor today as a pet, either current or past? How does that make you feel? Knowing your feelings about your pet helps you to know your feelings about yourself and can make you just feel alive and connected to the world. So if you need support for something around this topic of pets or any other topic, I'm a certified sex therapist. I work with couples. I work with individuals. Over these years, 30 years of being a gay men's specialist, therapist, and coach, there aren't many topics left that I haven't worked with yet. So if I can be of help to you or support, for people in California where I'm licensed, that would be psychotherapy services. And if you're outside of California or even outside of the United States, I provide life and career and relationship coaching. There's some overlap, but some important differences in those professional services. But I'd be happy to help. So for more information, you could call me or text me at area code 310-339-5778. That's 310-339-5778. It's on WhatsApp too. Or email ken@gaytherapyla.com. And gaytherapyla.com, the website, has a lot of information about my services. So call or text or email for more information or to make an appointment. And please tell your friends about this podcast if you think that they would benefit from the material. We want to spread the word. I don't have a PR agent and all this other kind of stuff that I think some of my competitors have. I rely on friends of the show to kind of spread the word, to promote it, because I do want to kind of spread the word for people who might benefit all over the world. And I see the statistics on my software. There's a couple listeners in Namibia. I don't know where that is. It's in Africa somewhere. But there's people in Russia. There are people certainly in the English-speaking countries. Big shout out to Great Britain. Boy, there's a lot of you there. Appreciate that. But, wherever you are listening, thanks for listening. And let me know if I can be of additional help. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.